Hey there YouTube fans, AC Productions here, and today we're going to be doing the reviews of all the stuff and aftermarket parts and accessories that I've installed on my bike. Now this is a review of a 2-year run with the bike and also with the parts. As I go through it, you'll see that I've changed it, and so it's really not 2 years with those parts, but you'll see why I've changed it. I'll be replying to a question from Colorblind Productions. Hopefully I pronounced name correctly, and I will show you a walk around with the lights. So let's get to it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up the camera and kind of show you on how everything is performing. As you could see from my last review video, you could see that the headlights are different, and I'll get to that in just a second. So let me go ahead and we're going to start from front to back and show you how all the parts have been up to date and how well they're, well, can't really show you how well they're performed, but I can actually show you if they're still good or not. All right, so let's get to it. All right, so now going to the front of the bike here. As you can see, I did, if you haven't checked out pretty much everything I've done to my bike, I have a video for it, and just go ahead and go through my video list and you'll see everything that I've done to my bike. There's a video for it. So start off from the top. As you can see, this is the original windscreen. All I did was plasti dipped it from the other side. I don't have a video for this one, so but pretty much it's self-explanatory. All you have to do is just plasti dip from the other side and just keep painting it until it turns black. So that's what I did with that. This is a group I have. It's called Chicago Night Riders. So I have that. I'll probably be removing that soon and remaking that decal. Getting onto the camera, I actually installed these mounts, and the reason I did both is because I wanted both sides to be equal, not just one side to be sticking out from the other. And this will gives me two positions for the camera, either this side or this side, but mainly I always have it on this side. And it's been working out great, especially since I did add this little foam piece. It actually dampens the vibrations of the camera, so you really don't see the vibrations in the camera when you do for editing for video. All right, going down to the headlights. Now this is answering the question for Colorblind Productions. Now as you can see, here is the R1 style headlights I've done, and your question is that you wanted to see how the headlights look during the daytime. So let me go ahead and let me put the camera back just a little bit, and let me go ahead and turn on the lights. So I have a switch that I made where I could have the lights turn on when the bike is off without the key. So there you go. This is how the lights look like when it's daylight. No key needed. Let me go ahead and let me turn on the headlights, because these are only the daytime running lamps. Now to turn on the headlights without having the bike running too long, let me go ahead and turn it on. Use the kill switch, and then I'll go ahead and use the high beam switch, which I used to put these lights on. So this is pretty much how it looks like in the daytime. I mean, if you're on the opposite end of the road, you definitely will be able to see me coming with these lights, either if I have both sets on or if I just have the DRLs on. You'll definitely be able to see me coming compared to not having them on. Obviously you'll still see me coming, but it kind of gives that little added you know, visibility when you do have the lights on. Now from the rider's perspective, as you can see, I will turn off the headlights, and as you can see, there is no difference on the floor. There will be a difference on the glass over there. You can see it reflecting. So as you can see, when I turn that on, there is no reflection on the floor. And same thing with the DRLs, turn them on, no reflection. But if you see it under my glass over there, as you can see, I turned it off, turn it on, and then with the headlights, it only shows one. It's just because the angle and Dixie in the way. So as you can see, there is no reflection on the floor, but as you could see, I am turning on and off the lights. So as you can see, that's how it looks like in the daytime. Hopefully that answers your question, Colorblind Productions. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below. Now let's continue on with the rest of the bike. Okay, so the headlights work awesome. They work really well, especially for the nighttime riding, and they also look amazing. People always asking me where I got those headlights on. I always direct them to my YouTube channel, or I would tell them that I can do those headlights for their bike, because I do also do custom installations here in Chicago. If you are located in Chicago and you want some work done to your bike, leave me a private message into my YouTube channel, and I'll make sure I respond to you as quickly as I can. Now for the fender, I did do a video on the fender on how to replace it. As you notice on my previous fender, I did have a crack here because I did have an accident, and at the time these fenders were only available through the dealership and they were quite expensive, so I didn't want to spend that much money. So honestly, I just kind of repaired the plastic myself until these parts became available at a cheaper price, and when they did, I bought it and replaced it. Now getting to the brakes, Well, actually, before the brakes, let's get to the tires. These are aftermarket tires. These tires are from Bridgestone Battle Axe. These are S20 Evos. The reason I chose these tires because I saw another rider on a 300, and he had these tires, and I saw how well he was leaning on his bike, and he told me his feedback was positive and that they grip really well. So I decided to try it, and I've never went back, and I've never really tried any other brand tires. So for any questions on any other brands of tires, sorry guys, I don't have any experience with them. I've only had the Battle Axe Bridgestones for these past couple years. Now getting to this part, these are front end fork sliders, and they've been holding pretty well. Even with a couple accidents I've had, they've never really scratched up either on this side or on this side. So they're holding up well. Alright, let's move on to the back, and now we're going to the brake lines. Now the brake lines, if you guys know, on an R3 is really good for beginner riders because, you know, they're getting used to a bike. But as you guys, if you guys are planning to keep your R3 for long periods of time or long term, you know, we're starting to do upgrades. And every time you do an upgrade, something always improves. And I can't stress enough on doing brake lines. These are the Spiegler brake lines. I will have a link in the description below on where to purchase these. And the Spiegler brake lines are really cool because you could actually customize the colors. So I went with a black with a red accents. You could do all black, you could do, you know, you could even change the color of the line, but I just wanted to keep it kind of simple with just accents. So after I did this upgrade, I noticed the braking was increased significantly. The feel of it changes, and everything is a lot better. Nothing so far with the brake calipers, those are going to be the same, but I do have an upcoming video on how to change your rotors and your brake pads, so stay tuned for that. So going on to the valve stem, you notice I have this little guy over here. Now this is for my tire pressure monitoring system, which we'll get on the top as soon as we get there. But that's a sensor for the front, and then I also have one for the back. Now going to the side here, I did do a carbon fiber piece. This is not exactly 100, this is not 100% carbon fiber, it's just a wrap that I did. Going on to the factory frame sliders, these didn't come with the bike. I did purchase these separately and installed them on here. I didn't use the brackets because I didn't want to make any holes on the bike. So what I did is I used expanding foam on the inside, and then I just glued it to the outside. And so far, they're holding up well. I mean, I think the glue is kind of coming along here. It's coming off. So I am going to take these off and redo this. And plus, I'm going to probably paint my bike too. So these will be coming off, and then I'll be reinstalling these on. And when that time comes, I will probably do a video on that because I don't think I have a current video on how to install these guys. Let's go on to the top here. eBay levers. They get so much hate on the internet, but honestly guys, these levers work just fine compared to a very expensive lever. The only difference is, guys, on the eBay lever, you're going to notice a little bit of slop, a little bit of wiggleness on the lever. But I show you in a video on what to use to limit the amount of wiggle. It did have a lot more than just this. It was really wiggly. So what I did is I installed some very thin shims on both top and bottom, and that eliminated some of the wiggle. Now, if you buy some Piazza, say, levers, you're not going to get any wiggle. When you move it, it's going to be nice and tight. So that's the only difference. If you're a kind of rider, you definitely want everything to perfections, don't get eBay levers because you're going to get this. But other than that, they function very well. I've had no issues with them since I bought them back in 2015. And that goes the same for the clutch side. If you go over to the clutch side, it'll be the same thing. It's a little bit of wiggle, but other than that, just try to do your best you can with the shims, because like I said, it was a lot more wiggle than that. Now it's not that much. Then only other thing with the lever is that once you get this, you need to go ahead and tighten down your clutch cable, so that way you can get the cable back to here. This happens because it's starting to loosen up. So other than that, they function well. And so that's, I haven't really put any work onto my bike lately, so that's why I have that gap. But as soon as I get the chance, I'm going to go ahead and tighten down the clutch cable, which will reset it and bring it back to this position. I also got the Crimp Buster. This helps when you're riding and you don't feel like holding your lever like this all the time. You could actually have your hand like this and just rest your palm on this little flap here to keep the throttle going. It's been alright. Haven't had any issues with that either. So, I mean, it's total, you could reset it, you know, just by flipping this part over and then putting it to your desired location of where you want it to be when you're riding. These are the handlebar frame sliders. They were not red with carbon fiber. I actually put this carbon fiber sticker or decal piece over it to give it a little bit of a contrast. And since I had these laying around, I decided to do that to save myself some money. But they do make them with red and carbon fiber or blue, multi-colors with the carbon fiber. I'll have a link in the description below for these. Okay, going off to the side over here. Now we have our four-way signals. Now this is a custom button here that I used for my four-ways. As you can see, it has a light up option, and this turns on your four-way signaling. On this side and this side to allow you to put your four-ways in case you need it to pull over somewhere. And as you can see on my rear side, that's how it looks like. It looks a lot different in camera than it does in real life. But this gives you the option to, if you needed to pull over somewhere and you know, and let other drivers behind you know that you're in an emergency situation or just need to pull over so they could see you, you would put that on. Oh, also forgot to mention about the TST Industries flush mounts. And now these are really cool actually. I've been waiting a couple, I think a year and a half for them to make these. They're really cool. They come in different colors. I chose the clear with the white. They also have smoke in different halo colors. Let me turn that on for you guys. See, this is how it looks like. Also in the daytime, this is how they look like. They work pretty well. When you put the signal, the halo turns off and then it becomes in full yellow blinking mode. Then once you're done with the turn, it goes back to the halo. And like I said, guys, there's different halo colors that you could choose from. Pretty cool if you're looking for something that's really actually almost like a flush mount. It has like a little bubble here, which kind of reflects the light for people in front of you so they can see that you're turning. And then from the back, you can kind of see that bubbly area. So other than that, I like them a lot, and they work well. Next, the top brake reservoir cover. I did decide to change it because I wanted something a little bit more stylish instead of giving me some kind of warning. This one says R3 on the top, but there's also different colors on this one if you wanted to get it. And like I said, I'll have everything that I've mentioned in my bike. I'll have a link in the description below on where you could get them. So this has a nice R3 design to it. You could also get some that don't have anything on it, or you could get something that does have another design to it. Okay, now getting to this. Now this is my tire pressure monitoring system. When you turn the key on, as you can see, this gives you the tire pressure both front and back. Now the way you could tell is that little green line. When it's on the top, it's for the front. When it goes to the bottom, it's for the back. And as you can see, for both front and back, I'm at 33 PSI. You could also change this to bar if you live in Europe, and you could change it to a different metric system for that. So far, I still have a little bit more reviewing on this one because I just recently put it on the bike, and then I haven't really rode too much since, so wait for more reviews on that. But so far it did, when I was riding, indicated that I was losing air, but upon further inspection, when I got off the bike, I was not losing air, but it did warn me, which was really good, because you never know when you're riding. You could catch a nail and not notice it until it's too late. So anytime this loses air or anything, it tells you right away. It blinks and it makes a noise. Not that you'll be able to hear the noise when you're riding, but at least it'll blink red to let you know that something's going on and for you to pull over to check out and inspect your tires. So at the time that happened to me, I noticed that I didn't quite set the tire temperature correctly, and that's why it started blinking red. So that's a good thing to have. I will probably post an update on how to set this guy up more in depth on setting this guy up. All right, now let's go on to the GPS. All right, now going on to the GPS, as you can see, I have a different mount now. I did start off with this one, which is a GPS only mount, but after riding a few times with it, it does get very cumbersome to actually remove the GPS, because this top part here with the little roller is so hard to actually lift it up to get your GPS out that I was afraid that I was gonna break the GPS. But if you're never gonna remove your GPS from your bike, this is a good thing to have, because it really holds the GPS in place. Once you get it snapped in there, it's not going to go anywhere, and then you don't have to worry about these like little rubber bands to put over, because this whole bracket actually holds it in place very well. But for me, you know, constantly doing, you know, trips, or if I'm doing a lot of stops, I tend to remove my GPS from my bike a lot. So I did get this other mount, which is the X mount, from Ram, and then I also purchased this a rubber band thing that goes behind it, and I find this one to be more useful just because I'm able to remove these rubber bands. These go off to the corner, and this hooks up to the back, and you just, you know, flip it over to get to the corners, and this holds your unit in place securely. And then, you know, once you want to remove it, you just, you know, pretty much go like this and pop them out from the back. As you can see, I just selected the thing there. You just pop them out from the back and then push these two together and then remove the unit. Either your cell phone you could put here or your GPS, whatever it is you're using it for. But this has been coming in handy very well, and especially in this location. And as you can see, I also have the custom bar here, which I spray painted it in black. You can't really tell too much, but it's right over here. So having the GPS in this location works awesome. Just because as I'm riding, instead of having my GPS where I normally had it over here, when you're out riding, you want to look at your direction. So you just want to, you know, move your eyes, like you could lower them down to like this, look where you're going, and still have concentration on the road, compared to the other way I had it, where I definitely had to like remove my eyes from the road, look down to see where I was going, and then look back up, which actually became very dangerous because I almost had a few close calls doing so. So that's why I made the bar over here, because that way you could actually kind of like, you know, you still have that view in front of you and not really move your eyes too much down to actually see your location. Okay, and so now the only minus about having a GPS thing here in front is that it does cover up your RPMs and it does cover up your speedometer. Now let me show you what I mean. So as you can see, there you have it. I only see one digit here for the miles per hour, and the RPMs are pretty much non-existent. But that doesn't really faze me too much, just because on the GPS itself, it actually shows you the miles per hour. But if you kind of move over to the side a little bit, it depends on how you're looking at the bike from this point of view, you can see your miles per hour right there. So that's not a big issue. Other than that, I do have a backup of showing the miles per hour on the GPS unit. So as you can see, here is the speed. So as you're running, you'll be able to see your speed over here, along with your speed over here from your factory gauge. So that's not really bothering me about the speed part. There's your little backup. And then also cool thing about this GPS unit is that if you're going over the speed limit, it actually turns red to let you know in the area that you're riding in, you're kind of going a little bit over the limit. And then it actually has a little meter to show you how many miles an hour over the limit you're going, which I find it really neat. Another thing about this GPS unit, it's programmable, and that's the reason I bought it. Then it also works really well if I'm trying to plan out a route and to go with some friends on a road trip or on a nice ride. I can program it just by looking at the maps and you know, kind of program it that way, street by street and turn by turn, and then implement it into the system. And I'm not going to go too much in depth about it, but I'll just show you a really quick one. Pretty much you go under apps, and then you go under trip planner, and then as you can see, I've already put some routes on here. These are some new ones: Fox River Run, Lake Geneva, Points of Interest, Silver Beach, Michigan. If you guys live there, let me know in the comments below. Maybe you could get together and you could go on one of my rides. But let me just click on one of these so you could see what I'm talking about. So if I were to click on Lake Geneva, as you can see, here is all the turns. If I go on the map, you could see all the pinpoints on what each turn is. So as you can see, if I move my finger around, you could actually see where all the turns are without the little flags on it, and it shows kind of a nice curvy way of getting to this lake. Really cool in my opinion. Really like this GPS a lot. It does have some fine tuning when you are out on the road and stuff, because sometimes the signal gets obscured, but other than that, it works well, and I love it. Also wanted to mention, it also does cover up your gas gauge, so when you're low on gas, or if you don't know, it does get a little bit tricky on checking your gas gauge. So as this is a point of view that you see when you're riding, and to check out your gas gauge, you're gonna have to do kind of this numbered to like peek down below to see your gas meter. So that's the only thing that kind of bothers me, but there's nothing I could do about it unless I find a external gas meter that I can maybe put up here on the top. But I just kind of do one of these numbers and look where I am in gas. Alright, so now we're getting down to this little guy. Then this is my air temperature gauge. Now if you turn the key, you could see how cold it is as I'm doing this video for you guys. This is 28.9 degrees Fahrenheit, so it is pretty cold as I'm doing this video for you guys. So I'm not doing this in any nice warm weather. And also you could see how much snow there is on the floor. So this comes really in handy when I'm riding, just because, you know, it kind of prepares me for another day of riding. So if I actually went out and rode in this weather, and say I just put a jacket and a sweater on, and as I ride, this thing will change to probably colder as we ride, and then I'll know what to wear on my next ride. If I feel I'm too chilly or too cold, I know how many more layers to put on. And vice versa, if it's really hot out and say I put too much on and I go riding and then I see how much the temperature is, I know that next time I see the weather and the weather says, oh, it's going to be 60 degrees out, I'll know what to wear on that day, because I remember from the previous time that I rode and I had too many layers on, so I had to remove some layers, so because I knew exactly the temperature of when I was riding. So that's a nice little gadget to have if you're interested in having something like that on your bike, so you really know on the current temperature. I know you guys are saying, well, that's why you check the weather before you go out. Yeah, that's true. But as you guys know, the weather always constantly changes. You guys are probably saying, why don't you just check your phone? You could check your phone, but honestly, guys, if you're at a red light or something, by the time you get to your phone and check it, the light has turned green, cars are behind you honking. It's too much to like do all that stuff. I'd rather just have something here on all the time, and it currently gives me the current temperature accurately as I'm sitting. So there's no need for me to dig in my pockets or anything like that. So good thing to have there. I like it. And also it has this nice little like kind of like RPM style gauge, or you know, like a speedometer kind of gauge. Now getting on to the fork stem covers. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback about these guys. It took me a while to look for something like this. Honestly, I was actually gonna get the fork preload adjusters, but a warning, guys, do not get those preload adjusters. If you see them on eBay, those are rip-offs. They do not do anything for your bike. Our stock, if you're still running the stock forks on your bike, they are non-adjustable. So even though you have a little knob here, that knob doesn't do anything. So you're just wasting your money. If you would want a real true adjustable shock, you would get an aftermarket complete adjustable shock. Made by Öhlins or some other brand company. Oh, I'm just saying Öhlins just because it's the first one that comes to mind. I'm probably going to be doing something like that in the future, but as of right now, not yet. So just letting you know, you guys, for you guys to steer clear from those aftermarket preload adjusters, because they do not work. If your shocks are non-adjustable, just because you have a little knob up here, it doesn't mean that they automatically make them adjustable. It also has to do with the end components of the shock to really do a true adjustment. So stay away from those guys. Other than that, these cap covers are really awesome. They really cover up those hideous bolts that are underneath here, and they look fantastic. Other than that, I mean, they have these in different colors. I just chose kind of like the darker color, like a gunmetal. This is a gunmetal color. They also have blue, red, silver, and black, but I didn't want to go silver or black, so I just chose this color, and they look really good. The finish is really nice. No scratches on it yet, which is good. I mean, I don't have anything to scratch it. I'll have this little rubber piece. That's for the fork stem covers. Let's move on to the clutch brake adjuster. It looks really cool, and it has a nice big grippy handle to adjust the clutch lever whenever you need to. And compared to that circle one, which I didn't like that much, that's why I replaced it with this one, because it actually has knobs that you could actually grip onto to turn to tighten up the cable. And once I had set it, I didn't have to do anything to it again. Going on to the rest of the bike here, I think we covered pretty much everything over here. Also, if you guys are wondering about the switches for the DRLs, I did make a bracket here. I know it's kind of hard to see. I'll see if I can brighten it up for you guys. But here's my switch for the front DRL. So when I turn that switch right there, that turns on these guys here. And then to turn on these headlights here, I connected it with the factory high beam switch. So when I turn this on, it turns on the lights over there. So that's how I have it wired up. Don't forget to check out that video, guys. Pretty cool. I didn't have this when I did the review outside. This is the controller for the heated gear, and as you can see, it's called the first gear heat controller, which stands for heat controller. And since I changed the tank to the R1 style tank, I did have this one on my old tank. I had it located here, but since I changed it, I haven't made a new bracket for the controller. But other than that, the review for the heat controller, I say, is really good if you live in a cold area climate, or if you have 4 seasons like we do here in Chicago. This comes in handy for if you get cold. or if you're a person that gets cold just like me. I do get cold very easily. There's two colors, there's red and yellow, or kind of a gold color. This just controls two separate, gives you an option to control two separate garments separately. So you could have the red being the top garment, which could be the jacket, and then you could have the yellow for the pants, or vice versa, however you want to connect it. There's no real right or wrong way to connect to the controller. It seems to have an auto cutoff switch. If you put it too high for a long period of time, there's been one time I rode and I had both of these all the way to the max. It's not connected right now, so you're not going to see the lights blink, but I had them both all the way to the max just because I was coming back from a Wisconsin trip that I did, and at night, in daytime it was fine, but at nighttime it got so cold. I think I read on my temperature reading it said around 37 degrees. At 37 degrees it's just too cold, and the heated gear was having a hard time to keep me warm, at least for me. I mean, if I were to worn an extra sweater, I think it would have been okay for the ride home, but at that time it was just way too cold. So I would say a 40-degree limit for heated gear is a safe bet to ride in. Anything colder than that, you're just it'll be just kind of an uncomfortable ride. And so yeah, so that's for that. But other than that, I mean, this thing works great. I mean, for a person who gets cold really easily, this is the way to go. And also another thing, heated gear is pretty expensive. So if you did happen to catch a Black Friday, you know, to get things, that would be the way to go, or anything. Or if there's a sale on Amazon, definitely check up on that. Other than that, if there's no sales, it's pretty expensive gear, but I would say it's worth the money. All right, so let's move on to the tank. Now here's where I get the most comments about, is this R1 tank. Yes guys, I know when I got the tank that these holes are not how they were shown on the picture when I ordered it. They are kind of lopsided and so on and so forth, but the reason I didn't return it is because, honestly guys, it came all the way from Thailand. It probably cost me just as much as shipping to return it back and get another one to get a replacement. So my thinking is that I'm probably going to fix these holes and make them more how a true R1 gas tank looks. I do have a friend that has an R1, so I'll be able to get real measurements on making these holes good. So as you can see, they're all different sizes on this side, and then on this side they're all different sizes too. So, but other than that, that doesn't really bother me all that much, just because I know I'm going to be repairing it in the future. Plus I'm going to be painting this tank anyway. I'm actually going to be painting my whole bike, so stay tuned for that video. I'm not sure if I'm going to make a complete video on painting of a bike, but I may get to it. We'll see. If you guys want to see a video on how to paint your R3, leave me your comments. I would like to hear your feedback on that, if you want to see a video of that similar kind of thing. So, but other than that, the overall tank I like a lot. It gives it a different look for sure. People are asking me if that's really an R3 or if that's, you know, something else. It kind of throws them off. I'll probably be changing the R3 to maybe R25, or maybe just leaving the number altogether out and removing the Yamaha, and I'll probably just make it an R. And it does give the when you sit on the bike, it does feel a lot different. So compared to the other more peppier style tank that kind of just looks, I don't know, it looks okay for stock. But you know, if you want something different, just because I got this one, don't be afraid to order, guys. I mean, like I said, I may have gotten a defective tank cover. And then to get back on the R1 tank, if you wanted to get a style just like this but without the little holes in the front, they actually sell another tank which is called the R6 style tank cover. Here's a picture of it, and you can opt to get this style too, which I think looks really cool. So if they didn't have this one, if I never saw this tank to begin with, but I did see the other one, I would definitely get the other tank cover, because it just adds that effect to the bike to make it look like a bigger bike. And again, I'll have a link in the description below on all the products I have on my bike. I did install this kind of like a decal. Not a decal, it is 3D. As you can see, it does raise up from where I stuck it, so it's that carbon fiber look. There was another one that said R3 on it, but honestly, guys, I didn't want to get something that said R3. I don't want to have, you know, my bike completely R3'd out, R3 here, R3 there. So I just kind of kept it simple and clean. And this was pretty simple. This was actually simple to install. Don't forget to check out that video. Going on to the other part of the bike. Also, I forgot to show you on this side, the frame slider, factory frame slider that I have is actually coming apart. right here. So as you can see, that's the expanded foam that I had used. It's already kind of discoloring. I will be removing these parts off of the bike and reinstalling them. Moving on to the back here, we'll start from the bottom. I did buy these, oh, before I continue on, I almost forgot one spot. I almost forgot to review the lower cover that I got here. This is actually a newer one that I ordered compared to the RNG that I had ordered previously. Now this one is a lot better looking in my mind. It does have these nice sharp lines. It is made out of plastic though, but it's okay because it actually sticks away from the exhaust. So this is a Downpipe Grill made out of plastic, but so far I had no issues with it. And it looks really cool. It also comes in a few different colors. Now, if you're wondering what happened to my old one, the reason I replaced it is because it made a big gaping hole, and that's exactly where the exhaust was hitting it. So I didn't like that. It doesn't look good. If someone asked me if I recommend getting this Downpipe Grill, I would say no. The only reason I got it is because it was aluminum, and it looked really cool at the time. But now that it has a hole in it, it doesn't look good anymore. And who wants to see that on the bottom of their bike? So that's garbage. Don't need it. And I went with this one. This one's a lot better. All right, so I have these RNG case covers, engine case covers, and they've been holding up. They have no scratches on it, and I haven't had any issues with them, and they look good. So no complaints there on performance-wise or anything. And especially when your engine gets hot, when you actually get if you touch it, it'll be warm, so it won't be extremely hot, so you don't have to worry about burning yourself if you get too close to them. Here's the other side. So that's another good thing about them. Sorry guys, I almost forgot to add this to the video, so I'm going to add it now. The shift lever. I did change out the shift lever to an aftermarket one, just because the stock one, it seemed to be like not well put together. It was only welded by 2 spots on this area on the stock one, so I didn't. And after having my first accident, the lever just kind of bent, so I was like, that's not acceptable. So I decided to change it, and I bought this one, and it's been nothing but good with this one. Has these little rubber O-rings to go on your toe so you don't slip, and it's also adjustable. So if you want it further out this way, or you could actually adjust it further in. And it's been working out very well. I've had no other issues with this one at all. The side stand extension plate. Now it did come with extra screws, but for some reason, even though I put Loctite, these 2 center screws actually vibrated off and they just got lost. So I have no idea what happened to them. So other than that, the only other issue is I actually had one issue with the extension plate, was that, and it wouldn't be an issue if you didn't do this extra additional option, is that on this one I actually put a rubber piece in addition to the side stand extension plate. I put a rubber piece in the bottom, and after a little while the rubber piece actually came off, which was no big deal because all I did was just scuff it up again on the rubber and then reapplied it with the epoxy. So now it's on there well, and I haven't had any issues since then. But if you didn't do that rubber piece, then you won't have an issue with that at all. But other than that, it's holding up very well. I like it a lot just because when there's times that I ride and there's gravel, or if I park it on the grass, I don't have to worry about it sinking into the ground, which eliminates also having to carry something extra for your side stand to rest on. Okay, now moving up to the top a little bit. Actually, let's go stay on here. Sorry for moving all over the place, guys, but there's just so much to cover. I did replace the oil cover, and I got this nice aluminum one. This has little holes on it, and I thought the holes were just for design, but they actually serve a purpose. You could actually put a metal wire through it and then twist tie it and then connect it to a bolt somewhere or any other part of the bike. And the reason for that is if you're on the track, or it's preventing the bolt from vibrates loose and comes off, it'll be dangling on the wire connected to part of your bike. Therefore you won't lose your cap, and then you could replug it, get some new oil, and cover it back up. All right, now let's go to the top. Frame sliders. These are a lifesaver, especially when you have an accident. It does do what they're supposed to do on keeping your plastics from scratching when you have an accident. And believe me, I've had 2 already. And as you could see, the frame sliders took the bulk, obviously, of the scratching, or when they fell over on both sides. I think I'm not sure if I fell on the other side, but for sure on this side it did fall. As you can see, these got scraped up, but they're holding very well, and they're still useful. So luckily I've not had any major accidents. These were kind of just tip overs and a slow accident crash. So that's how that looks, and they're holding up well. And there's no compared to the myth, or what people are saying, that if you get these they could damage the engine. I've had no engine damage because of these, so these are a really good thing to have, and I suggest getting some of these as well. Alright, let's get onto the back. Now these are our frame hole covers. Now what can I say about those? That they just look good, and that's about it. That they come in a few different colors, and they're just there for looks, I guess. I mean, besides that, I mean, there were rubber ones, and the rubber one actually stuck over here. There was nothing here before, and then the rubber one fit there pretty well, so I just stuck what was here, I just put it right there. So that was that. So if you're looking for someone with a little bit more style, they come in a few different colors. And now going on to the wide foot pegs. I really like the foot pegs, these ones, because they have more of a platform for you to rest your foot, and they feel a lot more comfortable when you're riding, especially on long trips, compared to only having that rod or that post where your foot kind of teeter-totters, and it kind of feels uncomfortable having that part on your foot for such a long time. So that's why I opted to get these. And I also did the passenger, because if I ever have a passenger, I want them to feel comfortable on my bike also as well. So these are good things to have, especially if you're doing kind of just commuting or long road trips. I would recommend getting those. If you're doing a track day, I would suggest removing these and putting your factory ones, because you definitely want to, damage these. I stuck with I did not change out the rear sets. I did keep it stock. I may change them in the future, don't know yet. I did get the aluminum heel guards, and they're still holding up well. I've had no issue with them, and plus they save a little bit of weight on the bike. Going on to the rear brake reservoir cover, didn't want it to have a little bit of a nice contrast of everything else over here that's kind of black, besides the brake lines that have the accent of red. I got a little cap that's red, and they also have different colors in this as well. Alright, almost, and then also moving to this area. Now this is a perfect spot for your battery tender cable. And as you can see, this is my cable that I have into my battery, and I plug my battery tender to this cable, and then I also could plug in my heated gear to this cable, and not have to remove any other part of my bike. And then when I'm not using it, there's a nice little channel right here where you could actually put and store the cable away when you're not using it. Just go ahead and pop it in there, and it's away. So it's a pretty cool little spot that I noticed for the cable, and it's really good to have an external cable like that to plug in your accessories. Going on to the exhaust. Now my exhaust is a Two Brothers SR1 complete full racing exhaust, meaning that it's not just the slip-on, it's the complete exhaust from front to back. So as you can see, going on over here, and it goes into the bike, of course. Just note that I noticed that when I did get the exhaust, my hands are getting a little bit cold now, guys, and I also have power heated gloves. These are really cool and handy to have if you're not too sure about getting complete heated gear. You kind of just want to try something out. These are made by Joe Rocket. I'll have a link in the description below on where I bought these from, and they are a lifesaver, especially when you're on the road and you get kind of blasted by some cold. This has 3 different settings on high, medium, and low by the 3 indicator lights, and you control it with the little button here. There's a little battery pack that goes on this part of the glove. Getting back to exhaust, sorry guys. Exhaust, when I bought it, was actually a nice silver chrome finish, and as you ride and heat and everything, it kind of turns to this kind of brownish color. I tried to use some polishes to make it chrome again, but I couldn't find anything that would make it come back to the stock original silver chromish color. If you guys know of something I could use, please leave a comment below on what I can use to bring back that shine, because honestly guys, I don't like that kind of color. I wish it was back to kind of this silvery color, which would be optimal. So besides having the Two Brothers exhaust, I also decided to put the power tip, which lowered down the sound by 10 decibels. But honestly guys, after riding this whole season with it and checking out my videos from my camera, it kind of sounds like an angry sewing machine. So I am going to remove the tip, and that's going to bring back and make it plus 10 decibels, giving it a more deeper, rich tone. Because right now it sounds okay when it's idle, but as soon as you start riding it sounds okay. I'm not going to really complain too much about it, but I would prefer a more deeper sound, and you'll be able to do that without having this power tip on here, which is supposed to like lower the decibels. So I'll be removing it for the next season, just to give it the full exhaust sound and give it that nice, more deep, rich tone. And then I'll check my videos. Hopefully they don't sound like an angry sewing machine after that. But yep. All right, moving on to the back. Now, been getting a lot of questions about the rear fender and how it's holding up. So far it's holding up well. I hadn't had any issues about them. The only thing is, I would say the minus is that anytime I need to do something with the chain, I do need to remove it, which is a pain in the butt. Going on to the bottom here. So far it's holding up well. No issues. Let me show you the other side where it did crack just because of me removing it, I guess, or maybe I wasn't careful. There is a crack right there. It hasn't gotten any bigger than that right there, so it hasn't moved anymore, and maybe it's because I wasn't careful, or maybe there was some flexing in the fiberglass, because this is made out of fiberglass. It's not plastic, so this whole thing is fiberglass. And there is also some cracking here. And like I said, guys, it could be my fault for the cracks, because I did have to remove it a few times to get to the chain to clean it, to do a real good clean. I did remove it. To change the tires, I had to remove it, and to do the chain and sprocket, I had to remove it. So all those times with me removing it, I think this could have been my fault on those cracks. So the two cracks right there, and then the one crack up here. But other than that, it's holding up very well, and I may change it up in the future if there's a different style coming up. I will change it up maybe, or I may just stick with this one, because this one was pretty expensive, honestly, guys. So far it looks good. So no major complaints about it. Now, next thing I didn't touch up on was the chain and sprocket, how it felt after I got it installed. Honestly, man, what a difference. It was like night and day. When I had the old one, it was okay for a while, but after a while, it was just like, no matter what I did to tighten it up, it just became loose again. So I don't know, maybe I stretched out the links too much. I'm not sure. But after I got this new sprocket and chain, the ride felt smooth. It felt really smooth. So if you guys do this, you're going to notice a difference right away. If you do opt to get, there's another chain and sprocket that's to give you more torque, I guess, or more power off the line. I don't know. I mean, this is my first time changing it. Maybe I'll change it to something like that next time. But honestly, guys, doing the stock, like a stock OEM replacement, you're just fine. It's when you start messing with gear ratios that you may throw off your speedometer readings. So I try to just keep it as original as I could. But yep, nothing but good things when you change your chain and sprocket. So far it's working very well. I've had no very big issues with it at all. I would say close to none. And then as far as those rings were over here, I just decided to move to not put them back on, just to clear it up. It makes it look a lot better without it. I know it's a safety thing that if your chain were to ever pop out of here, it goes onto those rings and not get tangled up onto the sprocket bolts. But as long as you keep your chain maintained and lubed up and well taken care of, you should never have an issue with that. But like I said, you never know what could happen in the future. But for me, it just cleans it up a little bit, and it doesn't look so weird, I guess. I don't know. But that's just me. If you guys wanted to install that back, you could. It goes on to any sprocket. It doesn't matter if if you replace it with another stock one, or if you do an aftermarket like this one. And then one other piece, since this one's all the way at the bottom and I never really pay attention to it, is the rear chain guard. And Like I said, this one's always in the bottom. I've never had any issues where my foot would ever get stuck in an accident or get near this area. Pretty much this one, for me, it's out of sight, out of mind. Also, this one's made by R&G. It's holding up very well. The paint on it, it's still good, even though it's in the back where all the rocks and everything hit it. There's no paint chipping on the metal itself, and nothing else I can say about this one. It's just there. Now getting back to this side, and now we have the rear swing arm spools slash sliders. The only thing about these ones, since they're in the back, the bolts did get rusty, so I took the bolts out and painted them black so they don't look rusty, because who wants a rusty rear spool? There's a lot of scratches on it just because of my my rear stands. Has a bolt, and then every time I put it on there, it scratches it, so I kind of just flip it over. Once this thing gets all scratched up, I'll probably replace it. Let's see if I can show you the scratches. As you can see, there's some scratches right there. And next, if you guys remember, I did do the rear swing arm sliders, and as you can see, they're not there anymore. For some reason, the bolt vibrated off, and then they just fell off. I was riding with another rider, and he told me that something fell off from my bike, but failed to mention to tell me that after we got to our location, which was 200 miles later. If he would have told me right then and there that something fell off my bike, I would have pulled over and noticed that this was gone, and then would have went and picked it up from the road. But because he didn't tell me, obviously that's lost, and I never decided to get them back because they were 50 bucks, and I don't feel like spending another $50, so I just left it as is. And then we're over here at the back tire. Nothing, this is pretty much the Battle Axe tires. Like I said, I changed the tires, but I did get the reflective tape, and I'll have a link in the description below on where I purchased this one. This one's a high vis red. They do have different colors on high vis, and they're really good. They actually really light up when you hit the light, when a set of headlights hit it, you could actually see the whole rim, the whole circumference of the rim, which reflects very well. And all this time, when I looked at the strip that my wheel normally had, I thought it was reflective, but when I put the light to it, it wasn't reflective. It was actually just a painted red strip. So I was like, oh, that's not good. I need to actually put something reflective there, because honestly, guys, I'm all about safety on my bike. I want to make sure I'm seen. And that brings us to our next point, which is the additional rear brake lights that I installed for the bike, which these are connected to this one. So let me show you real quick on the brake lights. Alright, so as you can see, this is the TST Industries rear tail light. Now the reason I chose this one is because I really like the kind of glow effect that goes around the edge over here. It looks really awesome in person. It doesn't really do it justice on the camera because kind of the whole thing glows. But if you see this in person in real life, I would say about there. There it goes. I would say that captures it right there. The only thing I don't get is this bottom part. This part kind of glows. I wish it didn't. I wish it was just kind of like this part, this edge, which would be a lot cooler. So I'm not sure why that part glows like that. Kind of almost looks like a smiley face or a cobra. Maybe like a cobra, I think it looks. So yeah, other than that, really cool. I really like this tail light a lot. It does bring, like, the way I'm customizing my R3, it kind of makes it look a lot more modern than the stock one. I did change out the license plate light, and I did put this little plasma light just to illuminate the license plate a little bit more compared to the stock one. So therefore, there is no reason for the police to pull me over because they couldn't see my license plate, because this one does a phenomenal job of actually lighting it up compared to the little stock brown bulb. I also did the Fender Eliminator. As you can see, well, you can't see because now the light's kind of blinding the camera, but I'm actually going off from the lights. But let me just show that real quick. Is that I did do the Fender Eliminator, and this one I got, which is the Vagabond Fender Eliminator, and it's just a fixed bracket, and these holes are for your rear turn signals, which I removed because I got this one which has integrated turn signals inside, and it also has seven different settings for brake light, for the brake light, and 7 different settings for the way the turn signals blink inside the tail light, which is a really cool option. Alright, so now let's get back to our rear lights here, and let me show you how those work. Obviously they don't light up when I have the tail light on because I just didn't want so much brightness over here. That's not really what I intended them to be. I intended them to blink, to turn on only when I put the brakes, to let drivers behind me know that I'm slowing down. So that was the main reason for these additional strips. So now let me show you what I mean. And then this thing will also blink because the way I have set it. So as I put my foot on the brake, I have it set to the blinking function, and then when I let go of the brake, it just turns off. So on these strips that I have here, I do have a LED remote to them, and I have 7 different blinking options for these LEDs, and I try to pick the most annoying option I could select, and that was the slow flash mode. So therefore, when I slow down, drivers behind me will definitely see me from a mile away, I would say, or even more. I haven't really tested out that theory yet on me slowing down, because on this little light, after a while, you're not going to even see this light, but you'll definitely be able to see these lights. Underneath here is where we have our power commander and auto tune. I have that too. Now this box, this is the Bluetooth controller for my LED kit, and that's where it sits back here. Other than that, the only thing I could say about the power commander and auto tune is that as soon as you put it on, you'll notice a difference, but it's best to get, after you get this, you could either just get the power commander and no auto tune, or both. It's however you want to get it. I would say after getting this system and then going to get it tuned on the dyno, it did a difference. Even though it's only a few horsepower more, you can definitely feel it when you ride. Auto tune, it's self-explanatory. Pretty much the bike automatically adjusts to the temperature outside and all those factors to help on the riding experience, I guess. I'm not 100% or too much familiar with the auto tune system. That's what I was just told, so I decided to get it. Other than that, the only issue I had with the auto tune, I did have one issue with the auto tune's O2 sensor. It seemed to have went faulty on me, and I got that code. So if you saw my video on that 24 code, I believe it was the O2 sensor, and that was the O2 sensor that came with the auto tune. Since then, I just replaced the O2 sensor with the stock sensor that came with the bike. So currently, right now, I'm not running auto tune. I'm just running the power commander and the stock O2 sensor until I get some money together to get another O2 sensor from the power commander. I'm just gonna leave it as is. Okay, and then last but not least, or almost last, is the shock tube. Now the reason I got the shock tube is, honestly guys, I don't want to constantly be cleaning my shock down there. It does get dirty with all the road grime and everything, so having this tube on there, it's made by R&G, eliminates the cleaning and all that. Plus it protects the shock from damaging the shock seal and everything and prematurely wearing down the shock. I will be replacing the stock shock in the future. As of right now, the shock works just fine. I've had no issues with it, and it kind of gives me a nice soft, comfortable ride. I've never really changed it, so it's on the stock setting, which I think is between hard and soft. Alright, so now let's get to the best part of the whole review, which is my aftermarket LEDs. I did switch out my red and white LEDs, and I got these multicolor LEDs. Let me show you that now that it's kind of gotten dark a little bit. Let me show you the best part, which is the last part of this review. I pick a nice spot here and then turn them on. They are operated by a Bluetooth system that I have in the rear passenger seat, and they operate by a Bluetooth on your phone. You just download the app, and then you're able to control the lights. This is how you turn on the LED kit. Now you go to your phone, and as you can see, there's my daughter. I caught her driving the family car and trying to get away with it, but after I snapped the picture, she was in shock that I caught her. Anyway, alright, so here's the app. It's called Magic LED. I'm just gonna go ahead and select it, and then right now it's scanning for the Bluetooth on the bike. There it is, it came up. So now we'll select that, and there we go. Now it turns on. As you can see in the background, it turned on the lights. But you also have these different preset options. You got warm white, red, green, blue, and regular white. You also could change the speed and the brightness of the LEDs. Then you do have a color wheel that you could go through and change the colors, as you can see in the background as they're changing as I'm going through the color wheel. And then you also have these presets, and then you could go and select the color that you want by this part. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the rainbow color, which is a very popular mode, I would say. So as you can see, there it is. Kind of hard to see in the camera, of all the cool spots where it's actually lit. So that's all the areas that I have it lit. And of course, when you go down to the bottom, you could actually select, you know, different already presets. You got auto, red, and green. And then say there's like a, and each mode is different. Say there's a mode that you like, and instead of going through all of them, just remember the number and then go to it right away. So I'll go ahead and put it back to auto, and then just let it go through its cycle. And it will kind of go through a few different settings on its own, which is pretty cool for bike shows. Now, the only minus I would say about this kit is that when I turn on the bike, the lights turn off. Let me show you right now what I mean, which it doesn't happen all too often, but when it does happen, I have to remember that it does that, and I have to make sure that I go through the whole app. And it kind of sucks when you're trying to like leave, when you're at a bike night and everybody's leaving, and that happens. You got to go through that whole process again after you already put everything away. So I'm going to turn on the bike, and you're going to see what I'm talking about when it turns off. As you can see, I don't have anything on my hands, nor am I touching anything on my hands, or having anything on my hands turned off. So we'll see. So I'll show you. So we'll turn on the bike, and then it'll turn off automatically by itself. So as you can see, the system turned off all by itself as soon as I turned the key. So now to have the lights turn back on again, as you can see, I'm still on the app, and it should turn on. But you know, if I were to select off and on, it doesn't turn back on. So what you have to do is you gotta get rid of the app, go back to again, select it again, have it scan again, it comes up, and then it turns on again. That's the only con I would say about this LED kit. Again, it's just a small thing, but like I said, when you're ready to go, you're ready to go. You don't want to have to go through that whole process again just to turn on your LEDs. That's the process you got to do when the bike turns off. I mean, when it turns on. When it turns off, let me turn the key. Okay, so you're okay when you're already been riding and you turn off the kit doesn't turn off. But when you're about to go, just make sure, remember, if you do get this LED kit, that you have to go through that whole process of turning them back on again. I don't know why it does that, but it just does it. Alright guys, if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification button so you can be up to date with all my videos. If you have any questions about any of the products that I reviewed on this video, don't forget to leave a comment below. And thanks for watching.